Alright, in the last video, I've introduced you the different cards or the processors that are available in the system. Now let's start to do some linking in order to perform some pipeline operations. Now first of all, what you always need to define is an input. Now if you want to use a multi-repo system, then obviously you have to start with any of these two. But if it is, especially again, if you come back to the multi-repo system, it has to be a system source. But if you already have an IR of a multi-repo system, then you can use an upload IR as well. But for this example, let's take a system source. Now, once you have an input, obviously you need to be either generating an IR, since at this point, since you are not uploading an IR, we don't have access to an IR. So obviously we need to generate an IR, right? So once you have these two cards, you can link them up from 2 to what card that you want to. So you always have to click on this link to indicate the start and this link to indicate the end. So now these are two linked. Therefore, any data that are available here will be passed down to this card. So that's basically the logic. Now, once you have an IR, you could do a couple of things. Now, you could store it in an IR card, right? For example, like this, so that you have a card which stores the intermediate representation that has been generated using this card, and stores here so that you can either download it or pass down to the next the process. Now, once you have an IR, there are a couple of possibilities that you could do. You could either do a formal verification, which requires an intermediate representation as an input, right? Or you could do something else. Now, in this current version, you could only do a formal verification as a process, apart from visualizing this intermediate representation in our 3D graph. And you can link this up as well. Now, one of the limitations that are already by default applied to these cards is what cards can get linked up. For example, now let's say you've added this card, but unfortunately, if you try to link these two up, you will actually get an error saying that these two cards cannot be linked up. Why? Because the scenario generator takes different outputs, which does not directly include the intermediate representation. So you can't really have it. But rather, what you can actually have is, in order to get there, you have to define something like the component generator, which can link up together. And therefore now when you have this get components card, it obviously generates the components and the endpoints. Therefore, you can hold to them or store them in this component card, right? And therefore pass down those components and endpoint information onto the scenario generator. Okay, now once you have the scenario generator, obviously you can generate prompts to generate the suitable test suits based on those scenarios. So you're literally translating the scenarios into prompts, which could be translated into actual test cases. Right, now we have literally three separate parts, one of which is doing formal verification, and one of which is just doing visualization, and one of which is doing test suite generation. Now, if you want to extend this further, now for formal verification, we already know there is a card to perform verification, visualization. So you can add that up into this particular path. Now you have a full end-to-end pipeline where you have this IR generation, verification, and also visualization. And maybe you could also link up maybe ages as well into the pipeline. Now ages also takes IR as an input, so we can link them together as well. Now we have 4 different parts which can actually parallelly run once we execute the run pipeline. Now there is one interesting thing that you can do here. We've used all the cards. Now some of these cards can actually link up some of these parts together as well. For example, now take formal verification. Now formal verification defines what are the endpoints or the parts that contains authorization policy inconsistencies. Now one of the things that we need to do is that if there has been a formal verification, we also need some practical validation as well on top of it. Now in order to do so, one of the ways that you can do is to generate tests to test out these inconsistencies that the formal verification has detected. Now in order to do that, we already have this test suite generator pipeline that we have created so far, and what we can do is to pass down this formal verification results to the scenario generator so that the scenario generator focuses or filters the scenarios only to focus on the distributed parts which the formal verification process has identified to contain authorization policy inconsistencies. Now this way, the test suites are targeted towards validating the policy inconsistencies that are already being detected in the formal verifier. Okay, now this is a very quick video on how you could link all these different types of cards that are available and how to perform multiple parallel analysis of the microservice system. Okay, now this is one of the parts or the pipelines that multiple sets of pipelines that you have created, which has multiple parts. Now, once you have performed all this, maybe let's say if you want to clear this up, it's just a matter of clicking on clear, which will ask you to confirm it. Now, if you confirm it, the pipeline will be gone. Now, this would be a whole new canvas to work on. Okay, now that's all for this video. I'll introduce you to how to run the entire pipeline, how to partially run the pipeline, and so forth in the next video. Thank you.